It's late 2013, in Kyiv. An ATM starts pushing banknotes onto the pavement. Nobody has inserted a card. Nobody has touched a button. The security camera records people walking past, stopping, and picking the money up. Here is how it unfolded. A machine dispensing cash to nobody is not, on its own, a crime scene. It is a fault. Cash machines jam, miscount, and occasionally pay out twice, and every bank has a procedure for that. The procedure is to check the machine. The machine is fine. So the bank does what any bank does when money leaves without a reason. It asks for help. A Ukrainian bank brings in Kaspersky Lab, a private security firm, to run a forensic investigation. In the spring of 2014, their specialists start pulling apart a set of cash machines that had been dispensing money for no apparent reason. The machines are connected by VPN to a computer inside the bank. That detail is the whole case, and at the time it looks like nothing. The cash machine is not a computer that decides things. It is a computer that is told things. To understand why it paid out, you do not examine the machine. You examine what was talking to it. On that computer, the analysts find something they have not seen before. A Trojan. They give it a name, Carbonac. Then they check the dates. The first samples of the malware were compiled in August 2013. The first infections were detected that December. Infections peaked in June 2014. The cash machine in Kyiv was not the beginning of anything. It was the first thing anyone noticed. The distinction matters, and it holds for the rest of this story. The malware did not start when it was found. It started when it was written, and it ran, quietly, through a period in which every bank it was inside believed it was having a normal year. By the time the picture is complete, the scale is this: more than 100 financial institutions, in around 40 countries. Europol would later describe it in exactly those terms. Losses per bank, according to Kaspersky's 2015 report, ran from $2.5 million to about $10 million. The firm's estimate for the total was carefully worded. Losses, it said, could be as high as $1 billion. Europol later put the figure at over 1 billion euros. Both are estimates. Earlier reporting in the same investigation used a figure closer to $300 million, and we could not corroborate a single audited total. The number that matters more is smaller and stranger. On average, each robbery took between 2 and 4 months. That is the gap between infecting the first computer in a bank's corporate network and taking a single dollar out. In at least half of the cases Kaspersky found, the money came out. So what were they doing for 4 months? Not breaking in. The entry was ordinary. A spear phishing email lands with a bank employee, carrying a CPL attachment. In other cases, it was a Word document exploiting a vulnerability that was already known and already patched elsewhere. The person who opens it is doing their job. Someone in a bank has to open attachments. That is the job. That is the whole of the intrusion. There is no firewall in this story. No vault, no alarm. And then, for months, nothing happens. They take nothing. They move nothing. They sit inside the network and they watch. The malware records video of employees' screens. It logs keystrokes. It sends the video and the images back to command and control servers. The New York Times, which reported the case with Kaspersky's findings in February 2015, described what the criminals were collecting. Footage showing how the bank conducted its daily routines. Not passwords, routines. Consider what is actually on that video. A transfer being approved, and by whom. The order the windows open in, which screen a supervisor looks at, and which one they skip. How large a payment can be before somebody picks up a phone. What a normal Tuesday looks like in a bank in a city you have never been to. Which sequence of clicks produces a legitimate payment, and which one produces a question. A password gets you into an account. This gets you into a procedure. And a procedure is what the theft has to be shaped like, because the money is not guarded by a wall. It is guarded by the expectation of what normal looks like. Anything that looks normal is not guarded at all. So they take 4 months and they learn what normal looks like, from the inside, filmed in real time by the people performing it. Every bank in this story has cameras. They point at customers. The attackers have cameras too, and theirs point at the staff. When they have learned enough, there are three ways out, and they use all of them. The first is the cash machine. They order ATMs to dispense remotely, in Kaspersky's phrasing, without any interaction with the ATM itself. Nothing is attached to the machine. Nothing is inserted into it. The instruction arrives the way every legitimate instruction arrives, from the bank's own side. The second is SWIFT, the international network banks use to tell each other to move money. It is not broken, and it is not bypassed. It carries a message the way it carries millions of messages. The message is a real one. It is simply not from who it says it is from. The third is the quietest. They alter the databases directly, inflate a balance, create an account holding money that was never deposited, then withdraw the difference. An account with $1,000 becomes an account with $10,000, and $9,000 walks out of it, and the ledger never objects. Because on the ledger, nothing is missing. The account was always worth $10,000. It says so right there. That is the part worth sitting with. In two of the three methods, there is no hole in the accounts to find. You cannot audit your way to a theft that the books agree with. The dispensing is scheduled. The machine is told to release cash at a predetermined time, and at that time a member of the group is standing beside it, waiting. No card, no button. In Kaspersky's account, the mules were simply nearby when the money arrived. It is not a robbery. It is a collection. Somebody made an appointment with a machine, and the machine kept it, which tells you what happened in Kyiv. The people the camera recorded, the ones stopping on the pavement, picking up notes, walking on, were not the gang. They were pedestrians. The New York Times described them as customers who appeared lucky to be there at the right moment. Somewhere in the sequence, a machine paid out to nobody in particular. We could not corroborate whether that was a test, a mistake, or a mule who was late. What is documented is the result. The only theft anyone could see was one where the thieves weren't there. Then the money has to stop being money. Cash on a pavement in Kiev is untraceable and almost useless at scale. You cannot buy a house with a rucksack, so the proceeds have to travel, and according to Europol, they traveled through cryptocurrency. The crypto was loaded onto prepaid cards linked to the wallets, using financial platforms in Gibraltar and the United Kingdom. The cards bought goods. Europol's own list is short and specific: luxury cars and houses. Every stage of that is a legitimate product. A prepaid card is a legitimate product. A crypto wallet is a legitimate product. A dealership selling a car to a man with a working card is doing nothing wrong and has no way of knowing otherwise. A billion-dollar intrusion into the global banking system ends at a showroom, with paperwork. The hunt takes years, and it is not run by one country, because the crime is not in one country. The malware is on a bank's network in one place. The command server is somewhere else. The cash comes out of machines in a third place. The money becomes a card in a fourth. The Spanish National Police lead it, supported by Europol, the FBI, and police forces in Romania, Belarus, Moldova, and Taiwan, along with the private sector, the security firms, and the banks themselves. That is the shape of the response. A dozen jurisdictions assembling to find a group whose whole method was to never be in any of them. On the 26th of March 2018, they make an arrest in Alicante, on the Spanish coast. Spain's Interior Ministry identifies the man only as Denis K., a Ukrainian national. They say he ran the operation with help from three others, Russian and Ukrainian nationals. He is described as the suspected mastermind. Suspected and alleged, and at the time of this recording, we could not corroborate any public record of a conviction against him. What the ministry does allege is a figure, around 15,000 Bitcoin, worth roughly $120 million at the time of the arrest. He had not, as far as the investigation described it, ever stood in front of one of the machines. The arrests continue without him. In August 2018, two more members are picked up, in Germany and Ukraine. In April 2021, the suspect arrested in Germany is sentenced to 10 years. He is a different man from the one arrested in Alicante, and the two cases should not be confused. On the 2nd of June 2021, a court in Almaty, Kazakhstan, sentences two members of the group to 8 years each. The Kazakh case is the one where the numbers are finally exact, because a court examined them rather than a security firm estimating them. More than 2 billion tenge, about $4.6 million, taken from Kazakh banks between 2016 and 2017, cashed out across 250 payment cards, at ATMs in 12 European countries and Russia, and a further $18.6 million they tried for and failed to take. That last figure is the useful one. It is the only place in this entire investigation where anyone can say what the group attempted and did not get. Everywhere else, the losses are estimates, because the only people who knew the true total were inside the network, and they were not filing reports. 6 prosecutions, across 4 countries, over 3 years. The rest of the group, by then, had been identified. Look at what the bank's defenses were built for. A vault is built for a person with a tool. A camera is built for a face. A guard is built for someone who walks through a door. An alarm is built for a door being opened at the wrong hour. Every layer of it assumes the same thing, that a theft requires a body in the building. For 4 months, in Kyiv, the only bodies in the building were employees doing their jobs correctly, and the only body at the machine was a stranger who happened to be walking past, who stopped and picked up money and went home. The camera worked perfectly. It recorded everything it was pointed at. Nothing was broken into. Every instruction the system received was an instruction it was designed to accept. Swift is a real network carrying a real message. A dispense command is a real command. A balance is a real field in a real database, and it was changed by someone with real credentials, learned by watching the person who had them. The group did not defeat the bank's system. They asked it, in its own language, and it agreed. They had spent months filming bank employees in order to learn how to move money correctly. Dennis K. was arrested in March 2018. The sentences came down in 2021. But in April 2019, the security firm FireEye published something that had been sitting in plain sight. The Carbonac source code, 20 megabytes, 755 files, around 100,000 lines, had been uploaded to VirusTotal, a public malware scanning service, from a Russian IP address. It had been uploaded around April 2017. That is a year before the arrest in Alicante. It sat on a public website, scanned and stored and available, and for 2 years, nobody looked closely enough to recognize what it was. The same shape, twice. The malware ran for months before the machine in Kyiv made it visible. The code sat in public for 2 years before anyone read the file name. Dennis K. was arrested in March 2018. The sentences came down in 2021, but the code had already been uploaded to a public malware scanner a year before the arrest, and it sat there, unread, for 2 years. The rest of the group is still on the international wanted list.